In this ILO, we explore the relationship between business, government, and society or the public. Let's start with a video from Education Portal on these interconnected relationships.
Business, government, and society have similar goals and objectives. How can all three affect each other? Let's make sure that you have an understanding of each term. Society is a group of individuals who reside in communities that have shared values and laws. In addition, society is made up of different religions, cultures, interests, attitudes, and lifestyles. Business consists of organizations that participate in consumer, industrial, or economic activities for a purpose, such as profit or nonprofit means. Government refers to the governing body of a nation, state, or local community. In this lesson, you will learn how government and society affects business. First, we need to examine the objectives of business, government, and society to see how they intersect in order to understand their symbiotic relationship. We will use N&N Chocolates, a manufacturer of candy bars, as our example company. Our society will be the surrounding area of N&N Chocolates' customer base. Lastly, government will be represented by the U.S. government. N&N Chocolate's main business objectives are to keep their costs low, increase sales, and maximize their profits. Society's objectives focus around survival, clean environment, access to food, healthcare, education, shelter, and opportunity to succeed. Lastly, government's objectives are to provide regulation, to instill a fair, safe use of resources, and to protect citizens against things like unethical business. Each of the objectives is interrelated. For example, society wants food, and N&N wants society to choose their products as their food objective. The government has to ensure that N&N operates ethically to not harm the environment or the consumers. There are three different models that can explain how business, society, and government's objectives interact. The first model is called market capitalism and is found in democratic societies. The definition is based on an economy that is focused on supply and demand, where the prices of goods and services are set through an open free market system. For example, N&N would love to sell their chocolate bars for $20 each. Unfortunately, society's demand for chocolates is high, and consumers are not willing to pay such a high price, especially since society can eat many other options to fulfill their food objectives. They could order 2 pizzas for $20 instead, or purchase a competitor's chocolate bar for only $1. In market capitalism, the objectives for businesses are determined by society's demand, as well as government's added costs, such as taxes. Dominance is the second model that can be used to explain business, government, and society. This model is based on the idea that a few people are rich at the expense of many. It is also known as populism, where the common man views business and government as something to be protected from. Government's part in the dominance model is the idea of heavy regulation and owning big business. Business and government are ranked at the top of the pyramid, while the rest of society is beneath them. N&N faces countless new regulations from the government that is used to keep big business under ethical control. Consumers tend to view N&N as big business and the bad guys out just to make a profit under this model. Recent public sentiment or public opinions have been negative towards big business due to unethical nightmares caused by companies such as Enron. Countervailing forces is also based on a democratic ideal. The premise is an open society where society and government both take a hand in building relationships with business. For example, N&N uses lobbying and influence to affect regulations in government. The government uses regulations and leadership to maintain control over N&N and protect society. Lastly, society demands N&N offer products and services that fit with their values. Countervailing forces are areas that can impact the symbiotic relationships of society, government, and business, such as war, weather, technology, or cultural change. These forces can alter the relationship, such as when N&N faced a drop in profits due to the emergence of 3D printer technology, which caused consumers to print their own personal chocolate bars at home for half the price. Business, government, and society interact and influence each other through three different models. Market capitalism is based on an economy that is focused on supply and demand, where the prices of goods and services are set through an open free market system. Dominance is based on the idea that a few people are rich at the expense of many. It is also known as populism, where the common man views business and government as something to be protected from. Countervailing forces are areas that can impact the symbiotic relationships of society, government, and business, such as war, weather, technology, or cultural change.
Government influences business through regulation, taxation, and other forms of persuasion that we will consider in more detail in the next ILO. Business likewise has its approaches to influencing government. Lobbying in one form or another is business's primary means of influencing government. The public uses the political process of voting and electing officials or removing them from office to influence government. It also exerts its influence by forming special interest groups such as farmers, small business owners, educators, senior citizens, truckers, manufacturers, and so forth, to wield more targeted influence. Government, in turn, uses politicking, public policy formation, and other political influences to have an impact on the public. Business influences the public through advertising, public relations, and other forms of communication. The public influences business through the marketplace or by forming special interest groups, such as Friends of the Earth and protest groups. Earlier we raised the question of whether government really represents the public. This question may be stated another way. Who determines what is in the public interest? In our pluralistic society, determining the public interest is not a simple matter. Whereas government may be the official representative of the public, we should not assume that representation occurs in a straightforward fashion. Often the public takes its own initiatives both with business and with government. The three major groups, therefore, are involved in a dynamic interplay of influence processes that strive to define the current public interest. One might rightly ask at this point, why include the public? Isn't the public represented by government? In an ideal world, perhaps this would be true. To help us appreciate that government functions somewhat apart from the public, it's depicted separately in this diagram. In addition, the public has its own unique methods of influence that are also depicted separately. Take some time to look at this diagram as a summary of this ILO. Do you understand what all the flows mean and what all the different sections in the diagram illustrate?